All right, Coach, your turn.
Yeah. All right. So my quote or mine's gonna be a quote. It's actually gonna be kind of a two-part quote because they go hand in hand here. Um, my One of my favorite uh people, actually I want to get all of his books so I can read them all. Is John Wooden,
John
uh,
Wooden.
the famous head basketball coach for UCLA.
Mm.
Um, he's regarded as very is one of the best, if not the best, basketball coach, in the college game for his success that he had at UCLA, but also has just the type of person he was and like things that he did and his personality and his work ethic and everything. Um, but I recently found out, or I read that one of his favorite quotes, and I thought it was a quote from him, was actually from a the Junto founder Benjamin Franklin. And the quote is
Oh, nice.
preparing to or failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And that was actually one of John Wooden's favorite quotes that everyone wrote about, come from Ben Franklin. And then
Mm.
the my favorite one of my favorite John Wooden quotes, that I mean it's really hard to like pick some of his stuff because he has stuff that kind of applies to a lot of different walks of life. It kind of applies to coaches in dealing with athletes. It applies to athletes and like their work ethic, or being somebody that you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like even like the stuff that talks about becoming someone that you should be proud of, or having to do with like work ethic, it really ties in. You can kind of apply it to not just like a sport mentality, but even like the four of us, like that. The four of us could apply stuff like that to our work, whether it's in sales or whatever we're doing. I just happen to be in coaching, and so like it kind of I see it all the time, and it's kind of a little bit of a self reflection
Mm.
for me in that sense. So um, one thing that I saw here, and it's kind of a I don't use this quote outright with my athletes, but it's kind of a practice that I like to preach and I like to try to do. But the quote is, if you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over?" Um, and that's something that it's kind of stuck with me because through coaching, I get athletes in, I work with kids that haven't necessarily always been taught how to do things correctly.
That's interesting.
um,
Yeah.
and the process is most of the time is a little slow at the beginning, working with kids, because I want them to be able to have the fundamentals and do things correctly. Um, because in reality, it's like, I mean, the quote kind of says it, like for us, like once we get going in a season, like when fall comes around for a lot of teams in spring, like if we don't have time, or if we don't take the time to do it right now, like I don't have time. I don't have, like, the next time that I can do it over or take time to do it is probably a year from now, because I'm not going to really be able to correct a lot of things, once they get into season and a lot of stuff. So it's like, I just like that mentality of having to like avoid taking shortcuts in order to get instant gratification. Um, and try and really focus on like what the goals are of your project or whatever it is you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and really try and hammer down doing it correctly the first time, so that you don't have to spend extra time to come back and do it over, or you don't have to make time to do something over because
Yeah.
you didn't do it right the first time. And so that's something that just kind of stuck with me, because as I prepare programs for the summer, or if I think about other things, like shit, if I shortcome stuff, it's like I could have just taken some extra time to do it right now, but now I'm having to go back and create more work for myself. I'm having to really, I'm really going against like what I preach and what I want to be as a coach and how I want to be as a better coach and a better person. So that's yeah. I could go on and on about like John Wooden quotes and just stuff that he says about character. He's obviously got his pyramid of character, or I guess it's qualities, or I think is what they say, of what builds good character, or of someone's character that isn't also an interesting read. But yeah, I'm using John Wooden mixed in with a little bit of Ben Franklin tonight.
That was a It's a great quote. solid quote. Yeah, that's a great quote, Coach. Um, like when you said that, it's the first time I've heard that specific quote. But man, it resonates so well with me because when I work with beef in IT, my job as a sales rep is to try and get if we're doing like a big, huge like refresh for servers, switches, and stuff like that, like pretty much the whole back end infrastructure running a business, right? If I don't get that right the first time, there's going to be so many mistakes that like I have to fix and try to remediate, and by that time it's already too late to go back to the client and ask for like more money or say, hey, we screwed up here, like, but you're going to get penalized for it due to our negligence or like not scoping this right or not taking the time to scope it out right. So I'm a huge advocate about like taking the time. I mean, even in my role in my industry, like I don't have a lot of time. There's timelines I have to meet, right? But I try to make the most of my time to make sure I dot my I's, I cross my T's, I try and get everything down on paper, and make sure that there's full transparency within all parties involved. That's partner vendors, that's my team, that's the client. And yeah, I mean, that's just the beginning of the battle. And then the next part of the battle is like having someone like Beef, my project manager, who helps me like stay organized, stay on top of tasks, making sure we're setting expectations and then also hitting those goals and those milestones for the client to make sure that the project is done cleanly, correctly, professionally, and on time. And
Mm-hmm.
like, and that's kind of like my saying too with like clients or even just talking to my executive about my sales pipeline is like I under promise and over deliver, and I think like that is what keeps me sane, and that it helps relieve the pressure off of my back a lot. Because I'll see some of my other colleagues where they're definitely overselling themselves. Like they're over promising stuff that's not committed, and then it bites them in the ass later because they promised something that they weren't 100% sure was going to come through. And I've been there and done that too, and I'm still learning day to day, like from my mistakes, and hopefully I can just get better. But that's something like I definitely totally agree with you, man. Because I mean, if you don't do it right the first time, guess what? You're probably going to spend even more time just trying to fix it. And like,
Mm-hmm.
who wants to live like that, you know?
I love that. I love
So
that sales mantra. Uh, Under promise, over deliver.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah, it works great.
Yeah, I bet.
Well,
Yeah,
and
in all walks of life.
well, people think, like I grew up where people like had this stereotype of like if I'm proud to be a salesperson, like you're a sleazebag, you're a car salesman, right? And I always try to explain to people there's many types of different salespeople, but to me there's two. There's either the typical car salesman or there's going to be the consultant. And I'm the consultant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there to earn a paycheck from you. I'm there to build a relationship, show you value, and build trust. You
Get you
know,
what you want.
yeah, and make sure that I'm taking care of you. Because at the end of the day, what I mean, how can you even call them a client if really all you're doing is selling product, but like you're not receiving anything else other than like a thank you. You know, you're not building like a book of business with them. They're just there because they know you're an easy buy. But if you're not offering anything of value, I mean, really, you're just a middleman to turn around something. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so to me, I have more respect for a salesperson title when you can actually like take a client on a journey and add value to their business, their life. Because I don't only help their position and their business, I want to help their lives be less stressful. And by
Yeah.
doing that, I can add value by, giving them free consulting advice on how to make their lives better. They don't have to necessarily buy something from me, but what I can do is help them, give them insight on certain products that they may not have time to look over themselves, right, and
For sure.
evaluate. So,
I feel
Hmm.
like you and
yeah.
my dad could talk for hours.
Like that. There's like an honor code
Make it
within
happen.
salespeople. Like, don't make a bad name for salespeople. Like just because like you want to get a quick deal and a quick paycheck. Like, don't. I've learned over time, man. Like, if you're honest with your clients and you're upfront and you're fully transparent, like yeah, maybe they'll be mad if you messed up, but if you're honest about it, they'll probably respect you a lot more just the fact that you did that because it's uncommon, right?
Yeah.
So.